Ask everybody to mute. Please mute.
No, it doesn't plug into that.
DJ Sebastian, please mute. And Lynn, if you're able to mute people too, let me know. But yeah, please stay muted and put any questions that you have in the chat room. We're going to have a really fun night ahead of us. The next hour should be very entertaining with our Press Club of Cleveland's Behind the Headlines program. I'll have Nick Camino introduce everybody, but first I just want to say that this is generously supported by Falls, and I believe Robert Falls is here. Christy, is he here?
He actually is having trouble logging on, so
there he is.
Oh, there he is. Hey, Rob.
Yeah. Actually, I just joined, Denise. I appreciate that.
All right. Well, you know, Robert, again, thank you so much for sponsoring this great conversation that we're about to have about a team we love so much. But Robert, I did want to invite you to say a few words first.
Yeah. So anyway, Christy wrote some great remarks for me, but literally I just left a client meeting like 2 seconds ago. So I can't find the copy, so I'm going to make this really brief. Really honored to be the sponsor of this event. You know, our agency has been very involved with media. We've got Christy Carlson serving on your board, and our latest person we've just hired is also on your board, Mary Lou Brink. So Mary Lou started with us last week, and I think you've heard of her. So very honored to have her and Christy, two board members with our firm. But I also, as a former journalist myself and a former sports writer myself, and also actually a former bat boy for the Detroit Tigers in the spring training, I want to say how much I really appreciate the Indians and Major League Baseball for at least saving part of my summer. I can't beat the stadium, but I open the windows, you let the breeze in, have 1 or 27 beers, and it's great to lay on the couch and watch them. And Dennis Lehman has not come over to bug me for all this season so far. But I got to give a shout out to Bob DiBiasio for last year when he brought Rocky Colavito into town, and I reconnected with him through Bob. And it was probably one of the greatest moments of my life. And so, Bob, I just thank you so much for reconnecting me with Rocco Domenico Colavito, who was such a nice man to me when I was a kid when he was at the Tigers. And so thank you so much. It was a great, great, great time. Dennis has always turned me down on fun stuff like that. So I just want to say, Bob, thanks so much. And so, again, turn it back to today's sports people. And again, really looking forward to tonight's conversation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Robert. And again, thank you all. My name is Denise Pulverine, and I'm going to turn this over now to our host for the evening. But before I do, I'm just going to ask one more time, everybody who is able to mute. Sorry, I sound like a nag there, but it's really important in these Zoom calls, as you know. Just mute, please. If you have any questions, there is a chat room that you can access at the bottom of the screen, and you can post any questions you have there, and we will get to them throughout the hour. But thank you so much. And now I'm going to introduce Nick Camino. Nick is one of my colleagues at WKYC, and so I'm really proud that he's hosting this. Nick Camino has been with us for over a year, but is very close to the Indians and has covered them for years as well. So Nick, thank you for hosting, and go ahead and introduce our panel. Thanks for everyone for joining in. Grab your glass of wine.
It's great to be here. I was thinking about how many Zoom calls you've done during all this over the last couple of months. It's probably like 7,000. Is that?
Probably all of us.
It's great to be here. And this is our Behind the Headlines conversation. Bob DiBiasio, Senior Vice President, Public Affairs for the Cleveland Indians, and Paul Hoynes, a longtime Tribe beat writer at Cleveland.com and the Cleveland Plain Dealer. Obviously, I feel like those two names are the most synonymous with Cleveland Indians baseball, Bobby D and Hoynesy. And I can tell you from a personal standpoint, they are not only friends of mine, but people that I've looked up to and worked close with over the years. So it is an honor to be here. And I think this will be a cool conversation. As Denise mentioned at the start of this, if you do have any questions that you want to throw at Bobby or Paul, you can send those to Denise in the chat there, and then I'll try to go to her every 10 minutes or so to see if anyone has any questions that they want to ask Paul or to Bobby. But we're going to be talking Indians baseball for the next hour here, so this will be a lot of fun. So first off, let's welcome Bobby and Paul. Bobby, great to see you.
Thank you, Nick. Good to see you, sir.
Hoynes, you joined us on WKYC last Sunday. I can't get away from you, so it's great to see you too.
How you doing, Nick?
Doing all right. All right, here's where I want to start the conversation, guys. Really, truly, when you think about the headlines, let's start with one that I saw this morning. This is kind of one that everyone's been covering. We'll start with you, Bobby. The alliance that was announced today between the Indians, the Cavs, and the Browns, seeking social justice and equality. What is the ultimate goal here with this type of?
Well, it's a collaborative effort, and in numbers you have strength. And so when things were boiling, Chris Antonetti reached out to his counterparts at obviously the Browns and the Cavs, as did our GM Mike Chernoff, and the group just felt that collectively we already have such a remarkable impact on our city. Each team does remarkable work in relative to the community impact for the Northeast Ohio region, and collectively how much stronger that could be, especially today with the challenges of today. So they're going to focus on improving the relationship between law enforcement and its citizens. Pretty much the focus of the Larry Doby Fund that Tito inspired a few years ago. They're going to encourage nonpartisan voting activities and just listening and learning and creating more dialogue and education, and see where we, as three professional sports teams who play a really significant role in our community and have a unique responsibility and take that very seriously, how we can help drive this community forward.
Paul, I wanted to ask you this. I mean, you've covered the Indians since 1983? Was that the first year on the beat covering the Tribe?
Yeah, that was the first year.
Have players ever been this vocal or this influential that you can remember at a time, and specifically baseball? But I mean, gosh, we're seeing what's going on with the NBA too, and the NFL's coming up. I mean, do you ever remember a time where it's been this influential, this vocal here out of players?
Well, I think players have always had opinions. They've always expressed opinions, but social media now, they can connect with each other. They can, gain strength from each other. It just happens a lot faster now. And, the movement, everything, it just seems to go, it just catches fire and it just grows. And, you can make a statement, a player can make a statement, and other players can support them, and it just seems like it's much easier to do it these days.
And any Tribe fan, I think right now, Bobby's been wondering about Tito. Terry Francona. Can you get us up to date on how the manager's doing and how he's been feeling lately?
Well, he's frustrated. He would rather be in the dugout doing his thing. His DNA is to be in that dugout leading a group of men on a baseball team. But these are interesting circumstances, things you have to be flexible in 2020 baseball. And it's more important that we get him healthy. And so he had surgery to remove a blood clot, and it just makes all the sense in the world that he slow down, take care of himself, get healthy, and return to us when he can stay. We're very fortunate. We have a gentleman like Sandy Alomar Jr. who can lead this ball club in his absence. Sandy's a remarkable leader. Those of you on this call that watched us in the 90s, Sandy was indeed the leader of that baseball team, and helping us to have the renaissance of this franchise. So Tito's okay, but he's bummed. He's frustrated. Obviously, he wishes he was able to be in uniform, but we got to get him healthy.
And we're going to talk some more baseball here too, but just if we're looking at the headlines of what's been going on with the Indians, Hoynesy, it seems like all we've been following with this team, if they're not playing a game, has been the whole Plesac Clevenger situation. Just what do you think of how that unfolded? And we saw Clevenger get out there yesterday, and it seems like his teammates are saying all the right things, that they've moved on. But you know, in this era of COVID right now, what did you make of how that went down, and how the team's going to try to move past it?
Well, I think, Nick, I think they have moved past it, you know, at least in phase one. They've moved past it with Clevenger. They still haven't reintroduced Zach Plesac to the, the big league roster. But, players, I've written this, and players have been breaking curfew for as long as baseball's been played, but this was the wrong time to do it. You know, this was the wrong season, the wrong circumstance. To do it, put their teammates at risk, their teammates' families at risk, and I think the aggravating thing was, at first I don't think they got it. I don't think they realized the seriousness of this, and I think eventually it's dawned on them, and hopefully everybody can move forward. It's been it's been one of those stories that won't go away. I mean, and I'm glad, because I've been able to write about it for a long time, but I know the fans have probably are ready to turn the page. I think, Frankie Lindor said, let's turn the page and move on.
Well, I got to tell you,
if I may add something, I thought Hoynesy, Sandy's comment the night before Clev joined the team, where he injected that little line that we need a little bit of sunshine in our clubhouse because it's been dark for too many days. I just thought that was, Sandy's way of just saying, okay, it's time to move on, move forward. But you're right. And when we introduce Zach to the mix, there'll be a whole different dynamic in that regard. To tell a quick story, Paul talked about guys missing curfew. And Paul and I texted back and forth on this one, and we think it was Casey Stengel. We're not 100% sure. But when he was managing a ball club, everybody stayed out way past curfew, and he was not appreciative. So he gave the elevator operator a baseball and had the elevator operator get autographs of every player who came into the hotel after curfew. And so in the morning, he got the autographed baseball and had a team meeting and read off all the names on the autographed baseball and said, I've caught you and I'll behave. So Hoynesy was right. Guys have been missing curfew for a long, long time.
Hoynesy, baseball-wise, you and I, we talked at the beginning of the season, and I thought we both kind of thought it was going to be a 3-team race, especially with a 60-game season. A 60-game season might let a team like the White Sox, hang around even a little bit more. But the way it's played out, we're at the halfway point here. Boy, it truly is a 3-team race right now.
Yeah, I mean, the AL Central is, for years taken abuse because it's supposedly the weakest division in baseball. Now it's the best division in baseball. I mean, from a race perspective, you've got 3 teams within a half game of each other. With 30 games left, the White Sox are, leading the American League in home runs. The Twins, obviously the defending champ, but they've been hurt by injuries. And the Indians, great pitching and suspect hitting. But, this is really going to be fun, the last 29, 28 games going down the stretch here to see what happens.
And, Bobby, with the expanded playoffs, I mean, conceivably all 3 clubs could make the postseason. And it's crazy to think, Hoynesy mentioned the offense struggling a little bit. If those bats really start going, I think, sky's kind of the limit for the Tribe, right?
Well, we went into this season absolutely knowing it was going to be a 3-team race, and the storylines of spring training 1 and summer camp were, are we going to be able to build a bullpen? Well, I think the answer to that is absolutely yes. We have one of the top bullpens in the game of baseball right now. And then the other one was piecing together an outfield, which is still a work in progress. So therefore, we're not a perfect team. I don't think the White Sox are a perfect team, and I don't think the Twins are a perfect team. But all 3 of us are only a couple wins away from matching the best record in the American League. And then if you look at the National League record, only the Dodgers have better win-loss record than us. So with our offense being struggling as much as it has, it's, I think, pretty amazing that we've been able to stay with one of the best records in the American League.
Hey, quick update. If quick reminder, if you are on the call and you want to send a question to Bobby or to Paul, Denise will be in the chat, and she can ask those for anyone that has any questions. So if you want to send any of those questions in the chat, we can. Paul, Tristan McKenzie, I can't talk about this guy enough. What he was able to do in his big league debut. You've seen some major league debuts for some pitchers, I'm sure, and that has to be right up there, right, with debuts.
That was amazing. That was really, really exciting. Tristan looks like he's all legs. It looks like, I mean, he's 6'5", and it looks like his legs are 6'2" of that. And we've heard so much about this kid for 2 years, 2.5 years. He's been hurt. He hasn't pitched a lot. And to just see him go out there, 6 innings, 10 strikeouts, 1 run, he's throwing 95, 96 miles an hour. That was really exciting. I kind of, the debut that sticks in my mind, that's the closest comparison, was Danny Salazar in 2013 when he came up and faced Toronto and struck out 6 guys. He was hitting close to 100 miles an hour. Danny's career didn't really turn out, I think, the way people thought it would. Tristan McKenzie pitched so well, he earned a second start. He's going to start Friday night against St. Louis. And, it just seems like the Indians keep cranking these pitchers out, young pitchers that come up to the big leagues and, aren't rattled by the big leagues. They throw strikes, and they've had a lot of success.
Bobby, I'm sure you've seen some debuts go either one way or the other. That has to rank right up there for you, right?
Oh, absolutely. As a kid, high school kid, Jim Kearns in the 70s, I thought, that was a big moment when the big fireballer Jim Kearns stepped onto the major league stage. Greg Swindell, who got beat up in his big league debut. There have been a lot of them. The 2 things that I was most amazed about Tristan's debut, first and foremost, he hadn't pitched competitively since August of 2018. And to go out and do what Paul said, the 10 strikeouts and just commanding the game and spotting his fastball and, how free and easy he was in his motion. That to me was remarkable. Again, not pitching competitively for almost a year. That was just shows what kind of kid he is. And then secondly, Nolan Jones standing on the rooftop of the garage with a mask on, his buddy. Tristan's a former #1 draft pick of ours out of a high school in Florida, and Nolan Jones is a former #1 draft pick, and they're close friends. And for Nolan to make the effort, it shows you how we have to adhere to our protocols, that we wouldn't allow Nolan Jones to come into the ballpark, but he came downtown, stood on the top of the garage behind the scoreboard to support his friend and teammate. And I just thought that was an incredible story.
Hoynes, I was telling you, a couple buddies of mine were texting me. They said, "What do you think? You think this is a showcase for this kid?" I said, "Not for him, maybe some other guys, but not for McKenzie."
Yeah, McKenzie's not going anywhere. I mean, it may have been a showcase for Clevenger last night because the deadline is coming up Monday. But Tristan McKenzie, I think he's dropped anchor. He's staying in Cleveland.
All right, Denise, I know there's a couple of questions that have rolled in. Do you want to share some of those?
Yeah, a lot of people are wondering how players have reacted to no fans in the stadium. I mean, when you're watching from home, sometimes you even forget, it's with the sound and everything like that. But how are the players reacting?
They were pretty loud last night, weren't they, Paul?
The players have become their own cheerleaders. It was at the beginning of the season. It was really weird. The crowd noise was piped in, and you looked around, the ballparks were empty, and I think it was really kind of strange for the players. But the Cubs came into Cleveland, this a couple weeks ago, and they were yelling and screaming. I think that was the first time you really heard a team kind of back themselves. And the Indians picked up on that on the last road trip. And, when they swept the Tigers in Pittsburgh. And it's kind of cool. And last night, Sergio Romo, he got an earful from Ramirez and Lindor. They were all over him. That was relentless in the 8th inning. So when the Indians, rallied for 3 runs. So it's kind of fun. And, with nobody in the stands, you can hear everything. I mean, you can hear everything. Rich Hill, the Twins left-hander who pitched a couple days ago, he was grunting after every pitch, like grunting and cussing after every pitch. It was like, you don't hear that at a ballpark when there's people in there. So you're right there.
And you hear the umpires yelling at the players who are yelling at the umps about the strike zone from the stands or from the dugout suites.
Right.
You can hear the umpire telling them to shut up. I mean, it's that's one thing that we all thought, this is going to be an interesting dynamic. How is television going to play with this? That, the camera's picking up some unfortunate 4-letter words here and there. But the players, you're right. Because if you notice, Paul, especially Frankie, who feeds off the fans, just like Omar did. I mean, that's their whole emotional aspect of how they go about playing the game of baseball. And you saw Frankie looking around, for somebody to help get his juices flowing, and there was nobody there. But it took almost half the season for our guys to do it for themselves. And last night was a prime example how loud they can get.
Paul, someone is asking, what's it like for sports reporters to be covering the games with no fans? We talked about the players not having real fans there, although I do love the cutouts. But what about reporters? Kind of set the scene for us. Are you allowed in the press box? Are you scattered? Tell us how that looks now.
Yeah, you're confined to the press box. 1 reporter per outlet. You got to wear a mask, and everything is you can't go. You can't go down to the clubhouse. You can't, you got to stay on the level of the press level. Everything is done by Zoom calls, interviews before games and after games. And I got to say, the Indians have done a great job with that. I mean, it's not the same as working a locker room, but, if you want somebody, they go out of their way to get somebody. You get all kind of the stars and the goats of the game. They've done a nice job with that, but it's different. It's just really, really different. The thing that strikes me is just seeing all those empty seats and not hearing any noise, and it's almost like the games don't count. So I can see where it would be really, really hard for players to be motivated, and I think. That's a tough to just do that. I mean, I know they've all played in front of, coming up in the minors near empty ballparks and in spring training and B games where there's nobody in the stands. But this is a big league, this is the big leagues. There's supposed to be noise. There's supposed to be excitement. And that takes an adjustment.
Yeah, Hoynes, just to put my journalism cap on just for a second here. I mean, looking at the great thing I feel like with baseball over the years, and you've kind of taught me this too, has been the access that you get. And that's part of, I know what you at the BBWAA, you guys have fought for, the great access. And this year is what it is because of everything going on. But, hopefully when all this is done, I mean, I know there's been a worry out there in professional sports that things are just going to stick to the Zoom. I know, you're probably dying to get back in that clubhouse at some point when it's appropriate to do so, right?
Yeah, that's the fear of the BBWA. That after this season, the players have been trying to get reporters out of the locker room for 100 years. They don't like us in there. They don't like us lingering around, as they say. I think, usually if you're doing your job, you talk to 4 people and you get out of there. But sometimes there's nobody to talk to in there, or you don't have an idea. So I can see where they get a little, they get a little territorial. That's their locker room, their home. But so this is going to be really. I think we're going to have a fight on our hands, Nick, at the end of this season. Hopefully, we're able to play 162 games next year. Hopefully, it's a full season. The virus is they get a handle on the virus, and we go back to normal. But I don't know what normal is anymore.
Yeah. And Bobby, you can probably see that from both sides, right? The access for the press to be able to get in that clubhouse, but at the same time, I've heard you say it before, I mean, that truly is their home. They spend more time there than with their family.
Well, I hope Paul's wrong with that there'll be a fight. I hope from our end, I think it would make all the sense in the world for us to continue to have access to our players and our coaches. That's what drives this game on a daily basis. It's what makes us different and I think better than any other sport out there because of that access every day. The relationships that Paul can create with the players and the trust that is earned over the course of time isn't happening on a Zoom call. It happens face to face. So I'm hoping that we can work together to make sure that access is not an issue going forward. But again, it all depends on what protocols are in place, depending upon where we start. And the protocols that are in place today are done for all the right reasons. Let's hope we're back to some sense of normal in 2021.
Denise, you want me to
I should say, Nick, that, the BBWA has talked to Manfred, the commissioner. They've been assured that, that there should be clubhouse access when things, like Bobby said, get back to normal, if and when, I guess.
That's good.
Yeah.
Denise, did you have any more you wanted to share? Or do you want me to
Yeah, I have 2 more that we can pop in right now. People are wondering how are vendors getting by this year? You think of the whole baseball experience, the whole game experience, no vendors. So any update there?
Well, yeah, it's difficult, obviously, for anybody who might not have an opportunity to access our ballpark, who was in an area where they were earning some dollars. And we, early in the year, sent dollars to a number of our service people, the ushers, and workers around the building, to make sure that at least the first 3 months of the baseball season that they were taken care of. But not to hear the beer man screaming.
I heard him outside the gate a couple times.
Yeah, no, he's been outside the gate. I guess early in the year, he would go to your house if you wanted to sign him up and deliver beer, and be the beer guy come to your house if you wanted that. But yeah, those are the things that are difficult, that we don't get to see those people and interact with them that we've known for every minute of the day in that ballpark. And let's just hope we can get through this thing and get back to opening up our ballpark in April of 2021.
Hey, Paul, I know at the beginning of the season, Terry Francona talked about it with all the testing and the new protocols and all the rules that have gone in. I think he said something along the lines of the team that really buys into this whole model the most is going to end up having the most success. Obviously, you need the players to play well too, but the teams that really buy into this whole approach, this whole new normal that we're getting used to, really could have success. How do you feel the Indians as the baseball part of it and being just outside the lines? How do you feel they've handled all this?
Yeah, I think they've done a great job at it, Nick. What I remember Francona saying, look, telling the players, every time you feel like you come up against something where you're rolling your eyes about, another test, or you got to do this, you got to do that, just bite your tongue, and use it to your advantage. Use it as as something that you're doing better than the other team, and take it on to the field. And I thought they've done a great job. I thought the front office was really serious, dead serious about, the protocols, about keeping people healthy, and obviously, when we've seen examples of Franmil Reyes and Clevenger and Plesac, when you break that trust, you break those protocols, you pay the price. And I think that's how serious they were. And I think you can tell because there hasn't been an outbreak, knock on wood, with this club like we saw with St. Louis and the Mets. St. Louis lost 17 games. They've got to play 11 doubleheaders between now and the end of September to make up for those games. And, you just put yourself at a competitive disadvantage.
Well, right from the beginning, everybody knew that, the mantra had to be a commitment to discipline if we were going to want to achieve what we want in the odd 2020 baseball season. And we haven't lost a game. We've had some hiccups along the way, obviously, but we haven't lost a ball game yet. And I think the hard work by so many people need to understand all the different people that are involved in our front office that have put the protocol to action, 110-page document, maybe even more, that we have to adhere to. We take that very seriously. And from Jim Folk, our VP of Ballpark Operations, all the way down, making sure that the environment we provide for our players and staff and the media, the people in the front office that are able to be on the short list that gets to go to the ballpark, that everybody understands that the importance of adherence to all the protocols. Again, it's a commitment to discipline.
I was going to ask you, Bobby, I mean, I know we're only at the halfway point, but you got to be pretty proud so far as an organization.
Yeah, we haven't lost a game. Like I said, we've had a few hiccups, and the boys were held accountable for their misdeeds. And that's the way it goes. It's the same with anybody in our front office. It's not just players. If somebody does something that goes against adhering to the protocols, they're dealt with. They're held accountable. And we haven't lost a game. So I think that in itself is a gold star for the first half of the season.
Denise,
if you're grading us, Paul, that's a gold star for the first half.
Denise, I'm going to go back to this one. This is on everyone's mind, Bobby. We'll go right back to you on this one, then we'll get to Paul. But a lot of people are wondering about the name change and where things stand right now as an organization. A lot of Tribe fans are. It seems like there's no one in the middle. You're either on one side or you're on the other side of this. Where do you stand with everything? Where does the organization stand with all this right now?
Well, we're 34 minutes into our conversation, and we're here at the team name. I thought we'd get there maybe a little bit quicker than that. Well, I hate to say it, I don't know if anybody out there is looking for any kind of news item today, but there's nothing to share from Paul Dolan's statement a few weeks ago that people have to be patient. This is not something that we are going to rush to an action. What we're doing now is listening and learning and having dialogue with a variety of different people, from Native American groups to community leaders to our fans who we just sent a survey to. It's all about listening and learning right now as we determine, again, what the best path forward is for this organization relative to a team name.
And Paul, the names that we've heard, it seems like there's been Spiders and Guardians and all these different suggestions out there. Paul Hoynes, you've covered the Indians for a long time. Do you favor any that have been thrown out there?
I like the Cleveland Walleyes.
Oh no!
The Cleveland Walleyes, the Cleveland Perch, the Cleveland Zephyrs. I'm still getting name suggestions. I think the last time I counted up, there's like over 700 names have the Cleveland Rock and Rollers, the Cleveland Rocks. It goes on and on and on.
Hey, Denise, would you double check that he said he was drinking water? that he's okay with the Cleveland Walleyes, for
Right,
God's
I
sake?
want to make sure he's not on any committee to name them, please.
Oh, my goodness. But yeah, Paul did a story probably a month ago now, Paul, right?
Yeah.
On a Sunday column that I think had 75 or 80. You broke it down by animals. You broke it down by people. You broke it.
Yeah, like the Cleveland Fellers, the Cleveland Cy Youngs, this Cleveland Cyclones. It went on and on and on. People are creative. That's for sure.
Yeah. So nothing new. Sorry if you were looking for a scoop or something tonight, but nothing new to report from Paul Dolan's statement from a couple weeks ago.
Denise, any other questions that people have thrown at you?
Yeah, we have one from Len Gold. He said, do you think the new rule changes in this shortened season will be carried forward into next season, specifically the DH in the National League, man on second base and extra innings, and the minimum batters a pitcher has to face?
Let Paul start with that one.
Well, I think the 3-batter rule will stay in because that was instituted before they shortened the season, before the virus, and they elected to keep it. The runner at second base, the automatic runner at second base, I don't think will make it. Will carry over until next year. But I like it. It's been fun. It has been really. It puts a lot of strategy into the game, and you're not sitting there for 18 innings. While everybody tries to hit a home run, and it ends fast. And I don't think you're going to see 7-inning doubleheaders. Obviously they had to shorten that because so many games were lost to the virus. I think the doubleheader will go back to 9 innings next year.
What's one interesting aspect is we really haven't heard much from the National League. At least I haven't seen about the universal DH, whether they're in favor of it, not in favor of it, now that they've played with it for 30 games. I know Hammy is fond of always commenting that if the National League thought their way of playing the game of baseball was so wonderful, why, when they come to Cleveland, do they use a DH? Why don't they just stay with their style of play if they think it's so wonderful?
I think, Bobby, they will. The universal DH will go into effect next year.
Yeah, I think so too. The only thing I think I disagree with you on, and we'll see if this happens, is the guy on second and extra innings. Who knows if they decide to do it in the 12th inning? That you get a couple innings of regular baseball, and so a game doesn't go 19 or whatever. That top of the 11th or top of 12th, put a guy out there instead of the top of the 10th. So that'll be interesting. But I think so far people have enjoyed that wrinkle. Don't know if it's because of a unique 2020 season, but I like it. I didn't think I would. But as you said, all of a sudden, oh my goodness, here's a guy on second base, and we got to play a little different kind of baseball here.
And everybody thought it would be, okay, the guy's on second base, you bunt him over and drive him in with a sacrifice fly, and that's the game. But, there hasn't been a whole lot of bunts in that situation. I mean, some teams have done it, but, there's a lot of different stuff going on. It introduces a lot of strategy, and it's not just, okay, bunt him over and get him in with a sacrifice fly or a ground ball.
But,
it's exciting.
Paul or Bobby, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think that rule will be in the playoffs, though. So I just think the point of the rule right now is this is obviously an unprecedented season. Yeah. There's no minor league season where you can go down and get guys if you need bodies. I think the whole thing is let's get through this. How can we get through this? And when the postseason comes, I don't think we're going to see that rule.
No, we're not. You're right about that. But again, the test balloon for 60 games at the big league level is certainly going to be part of a large discussion with Joe Torre and the competition committee amongst Major League Baseball and the general managers. So we might see a variation. It'll be interesting to see what transpires.
Hey, wanted to mention this, Paul. It is Jim Tomey's 50th birthday. So happy birthday to Jim Tomey. And we're gonna go to Bobby Hoynes. If you had a favorite memory of Jim Tomey, what would it be?
I think his first home run at Yankee Stadium, he used Joel Skinner's bat and hit. I think it was either a walk-off or a game winner in the 8th or 9th inning, and hit it up into the upper deck in right field. That kind of stuck with me. And the thing with Tomey, with me, just he never changed. He was the same from the first day he came up to the big leagues to the last. He was just a good dude. He was all right.
Bobby?
Oh, there are just so many. It's hard to, from the days on the press tour bus when he was just starting his big league career and we were starting to get to know him, and just the innocence, the genuine, wonderful, graceful guy that, as Paul said, same guy from that day on that bus as you're traveling to Erie, PA, to promote the Cleveland Indians in a snowstorm, to getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. Being a part of that, I know all of us involved in the Cleveland Indians organization. There's a couple on here, Curtis and Dennis. That was one of the most special times for all of us. We all felt like proud parents, seeing Jimmy get inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame, first ballot guy, our home run king, just a terrific, terrific guy. And, you just, in this game of baseball, Paul will tell you, you're blessed to cross paths with a whole lot of different personalities and different kinds of people and different cultures and all of that. And, Jimmy is near the top of the list as being one of the all-time great guys.
Go ahead.
You think about that to those teams he played on, and he's I think pretty much the first guy that, the homegrown guy to get into the Hall of Fame. I mean, Manny would be in there if he didn't have the PED suspensions, but I mean, that's those were great teams, and he's the first guy that got on there, and he was, just think of those lineups. He was him and Manny were batting like 6th and 7th in those lineups when they first came up. That's crazy. They might not Manny, and then when Manny kind of progressed, he didn't even want to hit cleanup. He wanted to stay down at the bottom of the order.
Well, Manny, as you say, think about it. Manny could arguably be the greatest right-handed hitter of his generation. I would sit there and over
There's
a nice.
No doubt about that, Bobby.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. He's
a
knucklehead, though.
Knuckleheads can hit.
But he can't get in the Hall of Fame.
Well, I know he should be, and he did some things, and he's being held accountable for it. But I would argue with anybody about him and being one of the greatest right-handed hitters, if not the, of his generation. And you have a first-time Hall of Fame ballot guy in Jim Tomey, and how the thing that you saw, that I saw, Curtis, Dennis, we saw how hard those two and Albert and Carlos and those guys worked in the batting cage with Charlie Manuel. Their work ethic was absolutely off the charts, which is why they were as good as they were. It wasn't just this natural ability to put a bat on the ball and hit. They spent hours in the batting cages, honing that craft. And whatever success comes to that group of players, the thing that bothers me the most of all of it is Grover never won a Manager of the Year award. People didn't give him enough credit managing the personalities in that clubhouse. I saw it firsthand every day. And I just marveled at his leadership skills. And people dismissed it to, well, anybody could manage that collection of talent and win. Well, I don't know if that's true.
No, that's not true. That was an interesting group right there. They were Dennis Martinez, Albert Bell, Eddie Murray.
Our man Kenny Lofton. And Omar in the corner playing drums.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Those were fun days. It was, how remarkable was that in the storyline of our incredible, rich history, 120 plus years, that we move into a brand new building and we become, this juggernaut of a baseball team. Couldn't have worked out better.
Denise, a couple more questions in the chat room.
Oh yeah, we have a lot. I think we could go all night, but we'll just limit it to this one because a couple of people have asked for this one from Bobby and Paul. Want you to tell, I guess people want to hear your stories. They want to hear about the Mel Hall story. I'm going to go pour another glass of wine.
Hoynes and I each have a Mel Hall story. You go first, Paul.
Yeah. Oh, man. I wrote a story about Mel had gotten into a car wreck and I can't. Well, first of all, one of Mel's girlfriends had sued him for child support. Then he got into a car wreck and ended up suing the Indians or somebody. And I wrote and I went up to him and asked him about it. He kind of blew me off, and I wrote the story. And it was in the Sunday paper, and I'm coming in the clubhouse Sunday morning, and Pat Corrales was the manager, and he takes a look at me and he goes, "You better get out of here. There's a bounty on your head." So I turned to walk out the door, to walk out the old home clubhouse at the stadium, ran right into Mel. And Mel is screaming at me. He goes, "If I didn't have this uniform on, I'd kick your butt." And it's just going on. And I'm standing there in the middle of the locker room. Everybody's in there. Because everybody wanted a piece of me. And we're just here, Mel, kind of get on me. And finally I said, "Hey, Mel, I'm standing right here." And that was my first mistake. Mel came running over. We collide. I end up at the bottom of Carmen Castillo's locker. Mel's on top of me, very, very angry. And Otis Dixon saved my life. Otis Dixon pulled Mel off me, and Tony Bernazar grabbed me and pushed me out the clubhouse door.
It was a day to have your referee's jersey on, separating people. And, oh, my goodness. Here we go. My quick Mel Hall story is the movie Major League coming to town. Charlie Sheen and Behringer, they're here to promote the movie. And it's about the 8th, 9th inning, and I go get Behringer and Sheen and tell them to let's go into the clubhouse and hang out and see what the players look like as they come in from a game, so you can get that feel for when you're filming the movie. And as we're walking, Charlie Sheen turns to me and says, "Hey, you want to go out tonight?" And I was like, "No, I don't think I can hang with you. I don't. If you really want to go out." And Behringer's looking at me, shaking his head, like, "Don't you dare, don't you dare." So I was like, "Well, maybe." So we get in the clubhouse, we're hanging out, and all of a sudden I see Mel, and I'm like, "Well, let's put 2 and 2 together here, see if these two guys want to go out." So I go up to Mel, and I was like, "Hey, Mel," and he's doing something in his locker, and he doesn't even look in my direction. And I said, "What are you doing after the game?" He says, "What do you need to know for?" I said, "Well, Charlie Sheen's looking to go out." And he turns and looks at me and he goes, "Don't worry, Bobby D, I'll show him my Cleveland." And I was like, oh, I just did something really stupid. And those two took off 6-pack of beer under each arm, and off they went. Was when we still had allowed beer in the clubhouse. And off they went, and I just prayed that Mel showed up the next day for a ball game, and he did. He showed up for BP and everything, so it worked. He's in jail, by the way, if anybody's wondering.
Yeah,
Mel is still in prison, unfortunately. Or fortunately, because he was a bad boy.
Denise, anything else?
Any good Albert Bell stories?
We can go for 2 hours on that one. Still get text from Albert watching games. He'll say, "How come he didn't swing at that pitch?" And then I won't hear from him for 2 days. And then he'll chime in, "I need to be the hitting coach. Hire me to be the hitting coach." You know?
Albert never misses an Indians game.
No, never.
Yes, he's a beauty. I covered Albert through his whole stay in Cleveland, and in those days, if a player got suspended, you had to wait until the team got to New York, and then he'd have his hearing in New York. I spent more time standing outside the American League office in New York City than it was like covering the Yankees when Billy Martin and George Steinbrenner were there, and Billy Martin was always getting fired. I mean, every time we went to New York, Albert was there because he hit some guy in the head with a ping pong battle. He got caught with a cork bat. He ran over Fernando Vina at second base in Milwaukee. It was a circus. It never ended.
John Telich can verify this story. When Albert threw the ball at the fan at Cleveland Stadium, the fan for the first 3-4 innings kept calling Albert by the N-word. Guy was drunk. We did not do a very good job as an organization grabbing that guy and kicking him out of the ballpark immediately. And so a foul ball goes down the left field line, and Albert goes to get it and looks up in the stands and says, "Who's been on my ass all game?" And the guy stands up and says, "Me." And so Albert says, "Here you go," and winds up and fires a BB right in his chest. You know, the guy, we go running over, the guy's got the seams of the baseball on his chest. He's wearing one of those T-shirts ripped. You know, he's got no sleeves. So about a couple hours later, I get a call from John Telich. He goes, "You won't believe this." He said the guy that got hit by the ball went to the police station and wanted to do an arrest warrant out for Albert for assault. And while the guy was there, he was wanted on 2 different charges, so they booked him and threw him in jail. And John's like, "So I don't know where to go with this story." And I'm like, "Oh, shoo, okay, well, who knows how long that would have lived." But just the oddities of what happens in this goofy game of ours.
That's funny. I wanted to ask you guys one thing. Bobby, I know that Hammy and Rosie, they're not traveling with the team. They're calling the away games from Progressive Field. Paul, I mean, you can travel technically, right, Paul? But in talking to some people, they said you can kind of still do it from home, and because you're getting the Zooms. How have you approached the road trips?
Yeah, you know, as a company policy, we're not traveling. They're not letting anybody travel. So yeah, it's like you watch the game on TV. You get the Zoom calls before the game and after the game, and you're writing from your office or your living room after watching the game. It's not ideal. Let's just put it that way. But hey, this is what you got to do. You've got to do it, and until they tell us we can travel. This is the way it's going to be, and who knows in the postseason what's going to happen if they go to a bubble, situation. Who knows? I don't know what's going to happen. So, we're just taking it day by day here.
Bobby, what have you thought about that? I mean, if you're an alien dropped from outer space and you're listening to a Tribe game with Hammy and Rosie on the radio, you know, there's been times where the club has been on the road, you know, in Pittsburgh or whatever. You wouldn't know it. I mean, I think they've done a great job.
Well, they have, and it's not easy because some obviously hits you don't see off the TV real quickly as you do in person. For those people that may want to know a little bit of the detail, that Hammy and Rosie are actually in the calling company area, the club, which has larger televisions, and they can put some tables together and spread out and watch on a big screen TV. So we need obviously the hookups for them to do the game, and we run the wires over to them. Where Rick and Matt and Andre are at the STO studios in downtown Cleveland calling the game. It's all about flexibility. I do agree with you, Nick, though, that Hammy and Rosie trying to call a baseball game on the radio off the television isn't an easy thing to do.
Yeah, and it seems like on STO, Archie and Matt and Andre are just having a blast.
Yeah.
They kind of changed their format, so it's been fun to listen to.
Yeah, no, they've had to change. You're right, Paul, because they've had to change because it's a whole different animal, and the dialogue amongst the three of them has truly been a lot of fun and terrific. And you know, again, when you went into it, you weren't quite sure how it was going to all unfold, but so far it's been wonderful.
Yeah, all those guys on the radio and TV side of things doing a great job. Well, I think that's going to do it for us, right, Denise? That's going to do it for this for the conversation. But special thanks to Paul and Bobby and everybody that has been able to join us tonight.
Well, thank you. This was fun.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Denise.
Thanks, guys.
You're
Thank you all
welcome.
for attending.
Okay,
Thank
take
you to
care.
Robert
Go Tribe.
Pauls. Thank you, Robert Pauls. All right, bye. Good night,
Everybody.
everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.